Hello friends, Tanya here with another crafty video, and today I am doing another of my Beachy cards. This one is going to be a postal birthday card. We're going to use the Postal Collage die. This is the A2 size one from Waffle. There are several companies that are coming out with the Postal Collage style dies and stencils. They're so much fun. I don't love these. This is the Beach Days, and this is the Coastal stencil set. Beach Days came out last summer and the Coastal one came out this summer. Now I'm going to use both of these stencil sets. These also have markings to help you line them up on that die cut and tell you what the areas you are stenciling are, and sometimes give you some color guidance. This one said sky and sand in various areas to help you figure out what you're stenciling where. And then on the Coastal set, there are 4 stencils in this one. There's 3 in the Beach Days. And this one also tells you sky and sand or sea or water. I think it says water on the one. We're going to use the same colors on both of these stencil sets. We're going to start with tumbled glass for all of the sky areas. And I do have to hold that seagull down just a little bit with my finger to make sure it doesn't shift when I am ink blending. Then next is one of the umbrellas. Then we have a lighthouse here. And this is like a cruise ship or a cargo ship. Yeah. And then the last one, what is that one? Trying to remember. Oh, it's a sun with some waves. We're actually going to use that one. I'm going to use components from each of these stenciled sets in our card. And I wanted to show that you can use this components from the different sets, make them seem coordinated just by using the same color scheme. Now for the sand, I'm starting with tea dye, and I was almost ready to do some speckles on the sand, but I almost forgot to do the ocean. So we're going to use Salty Ocean and Uncharted Mariner to do some ink blending, and we're going to do some shading on this. So I start with the Salty Ocean and then come back with the Uncharted Mariner. Now I'm going to mask the areas I do not want to get spatters on, and we're going to use the Yasutomo watercolor mixing set from Spellbinders, along with some vintage photo distress ink. Now I'm going to smush that on the lid of our watercoloring on that palette that I have for my watercolor mixing set. And I also have some white splatter here. I am liberally splattering this with white and gold, and I believe the vintage photo, which I've squished on a non-porous surface. Just going to liberally spatter all of this before I remove the stencil, so it masks all those areas I want to remain white. It just works best this way. Now I'm going to peel all of those masks off, and I actually, to be honest, I did this 2 more times on 2 more sets because I was having so much fun and I really like this color palette, and I was really hoping to use lots of these components on lots of different fun, summery, beachy cards. I'm carefully lining this up. I am using the different white masked areas and the lines, the etched lines in the stencils that show you where to line up with the postage die to get those lined up just right. And then I'm going to use scattered straw and wild honey. I'm going to use the scattered straw as the lighter yellow for the French fries, and I'm using the wild honey excuse me, to do the beak of our seagull. And I'm going to clean my brush because it was pretty dark. I wanted scattered straw and a little bit of wild honey shading for the sun. Next, we're going to use some hickory smoke for the hull of that boat or ship. And then we are using some more of that scattered straw for one of the umbrellas that you're looking down on from above, and some tumbled glass on the second umbrella. For the side view of this umbrella that's striped, I'm going to use Salty Ocean and just a smidge, I think I used just a smidge of the Uncharted Mariner eventually here. Yeah. And I'm adding some Salty Ocean to the water section on this one. And again, a little bit of Uncharted Mariner. There we go. And I don't know if I show it, but I do use Uncharted Mariner for those little waves in the upper right corner of the Beach Days one. Next, we're going to use Tattered Rose to add a little bit of light shading. I want to add like a shine or highlight down the center of the lighthouse. And for the crab, we're going to add Crackling Campfire because I want this to be more of a tomatoey red, that little orangey red color. And then I'm going to come in with the not the Crackling Campfire. I already used that on the crab. Lumberjack Plaid. And we're going to add, so it's Tattered Rose and Lumberjack Plaid. And who would think that that actually works? But it really does. And then I'm adding some Lumberjack Plaid to the crabs as the darkest color. I add a little bit of Tattered Rose and just a smidge of the Crackling Campfire to one of the little seashells there also. We're going to use that same reds combination for the fry box. So Tattered Rose will be the base color, and then Crackling Campfire and Lumberjack Plaid. The second seashell, I used the Salty Ocean, actually Tumbled Glass and Salty Ocean. I'm using a dark application of Hickory Smoke for the anchor, and there I'm coloring the fries. Again, starting with the Tattered Rose, bringing in Crackling Campfire, and finishing off with the Lumberjack Plaid. And I see on this version, I forgot to do the waves on that upper right corner, but I do use them on the other two panels. I added some Wild Honey to the yellow umbrella, and we're going to come back with the Uncharted Mariner to add, nope, that was Salty Ocean. Uncharted Mariner goes on the waves, and Salty Ocean goes on the other stripes for the looking down on it from above umbrella. We're using Salty Ocean and Uncharted Mariner for these ocean portions, and a little bit of Wild Honey for the light coming out of the lighthouse. Next, we're going to use the black soot to do the silhouette of the sailboat and the eyes of our seagull and the top portion of the ship. Now that completes the Beach Days one. Oh, nope. I did a bunch of masking and put this in my spatter box. And I'm spattering with the same spatter white, vintage photo, and gold mixing watercolor medium. Remove all of those masks so I didn't get any spatter on the areas I didn't want. And now all of the beach areas have that spatter. That really turned out cool. And there is a sand stamp, like a speckly stamp, that you can get with the Inquisitive Seagull release. And I do have it, but I wanted to spatter, and it was a lot of fun. I'm using Hickory Smoke and the black soot here to add some finishing details. Plus, I think that was vintage photo I used for the rope. Lots of fun details on all of those. Now, you can use your guillotine trimmer, line this up so it's going to cut down the center of all of these little circles to separate these postage dies if you want to use them individually. So I'm going to cut all of these apart. I do start out using the guillotine, but you know what? I can use my scissor too. That works very well. I'm just going to line these up so that it makes sense in each of the ways I'm cutting them. Now that I got to the smaller stamps, I am just using my scissor. I do have a long bladed scissor. I should bring that out, but it's currently in my sewing station for cutting apart pattern pieces because I don't want to use my sewing scissors on the pattern paper or the paper for the patterns. I'm cutting apart that second one strictly with the scissor. I just wanted you to see how easy it is. You don't have to be super particular about making sure that your cuts are straight when you're cutting these apart. It's pretty forgiving with that perforated line. Now that we have all of those cut apart, I'm going to choose a few to work with for this next card. There are lots of great ones to coordinate with. We are going to use the nested postage labels and tag again here. And I have a piece of cardstock that I'm going to ink blend with antique linen and tea dye inks here to create kind of that beachy background. I'm going to start with the antique linen. This is the Distress Oxides, not the Distress Inks. You could use the Distress Inks. Those colors tend to be a bit more vibrant. So if that's the look you're going for, use the Distress Inks, or if that's what you have. These are great beach colors. Now that I have those ink blended together, we're going to take the Vintage Photo, the gold, and the spatter white, and we're going to spatter the heck out of this piece of cardstock. I love creating a beachy background. There is also a sand embossing powder. That would be fun, but it adds a shiny background. It's a Hero Arts product, and honestly, I think we got a package of it, or a half-ounce container of it in the My Monthly Hero, or the Hero Studio release for June, which, you know, between that release, and the Waffle Flower release this month, I was very, very beach inspired. Lots of fun products to use with, and I was really excited to pull some of my older products out and play with them. I love to have another opportunity to play with things that I just really loved in playing with the first time. It's very inspiring to just keep using more ideas. Now that I have that very spattered, I did die cut that with the stitched layer from the Nested Postage Labels and Tag die set, and I used a white cardstock to die cut the postage edge version. And this Happy Birthday that I have gold heat embossed is actually from the February 2025 Hero Studio card kit of the month. I had stamped and die cut that and didn't end up using it, so it was in my little elements container of things that I could use in the future. And it seemed perfect for this. We are taking some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink here and ink blending a piece of white cardstock. This happens to be a heavyweight white cardstock scrap from my stash, cut from 100-pound cardstock, left over from making shaped cards, I'm sure. We'll take that and die cut it with one of the larger stitched rectangles from that nesting postage label and tags set, and I ink blended it with tumbled glass so that it would for sure match the colors on the stenciled components that I have on this card. I have that layer down that adds a nice blue background, pulls in all of the blues from the other pieces that I'm using. Now we'll layer together our sand layer with the postage edge background layer, and we'll center that. This is an A2 size card. I don't make those very often, but sometimes that's just the perfect size. Most of the time I'm going to say a 5x7 card is better. This is just what worked best with the components that I had at hand for this one. And I suppose I got to make some A2 size cards for the people that really do love a good A2 size card. I'm using my the press and seal trick to get placement figured out, and then adding glue to the back and laying it onto the card front. I didn't add any extra layers of cardstock scraps behind these. They are directly applied to that sand background. Inside the card, we're going to use a sentiment from the Seize the Day stamp set from Honeybee. This is I love Honeybee's sentiment sets. They have great sentiments for lots of different themes, and they all have coordinating dies that you can purchase for all of the sentiments. I'm not using the dies this time, but I did take another of the Postage Collage coastal stamps and stenciled stamps and adhere that to the inside of the card, and then center our sentiment underneath it. I thought that complemented the whole theme very well. So that is our completed card. I hope you enjoyed it. I really had fun playing with all of these beachy themed things. Oh, maybe I'll have more soon. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done that. Check that description box below for a link to all of the products that I've used today. And until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.